Shad Gaspard, January 13, 1981, May 17, 2020, was an American professional wrestler and actor. He was best known for his time with WWE, where he performed under his real name, or mononymously as Shad Gaspard. Signed with World Wrestling Entertainment, now WWE, in 2003, where he was assigned to their developmental territory Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, and was a two-time OVW Southern Tag Team Champion, with JTG, as part of Crime Time. In 2006, Crime Time was promoted to WWE's main roster, before both Gaspard and JTG were released from the company the following year. Crime Time returned to WWE in 2008, but Gaspard was released again in 2010. After departing WWE, Gaspard pursued an acting career that included several films and television roles such as Think Like a Man 2, Get Hard, The Game, and From Dusk Till Dawn, the series. He was also the co-creator of the 2011 graphic novel Assassin and Son and provided motion capture for video games, most notably for the protagonist Kratos in the 2018 edition of God of War. Early life. Shad Gaspard was born on January 13, 1981, in the Brooklyn borough of New York City, the third of 6 children born to Ingrid Chittick and Ben Gaspard. He was of Curaçaoan and Haitian descent. His father was a former enforcer for street gangs and later a personal security guard in the early 1970s. He worked for gangster Frank Lucas and currently owns McVeigh Contracting Incorporated. At age 5, Gaspard was trained by his father in boxing, and at age 8 he began training in a mixture of different martial arts such as judo, jeet kune do, kickboxing, and Muay Thai. As a student, he quickly developed into an aggressive fighter, winning many fight tournaments as an amateur. His mother gave him the nickname Beast as a result of his aggressiveness. At age 16, Gaspard began prize fighting for promoter Hardbody Harrison, a former WCW wrestler and FX Tough Man champion, in bar fighting tournaments such as boxing, kickboxing, MMA, and Tough Man competitions. Although he was only 16 years old, he competed against adults who were up to 20 years older due to his large size. He held win-loss records in MMA, 35-7, and amateur boxing, 57-26. He was extensively involved in athletics during his high school years, specializing in wrestling, track, and basketball. After high school, he continued to play basketball at Georgia Perimeter College. After leaving, he became the bodyguard for several celebrities, including P. Diddy and Mike Tyson. Professional wrestling career. World Wrestling Entertainment. Tough Enough and Ohio Valley Wrestling, 2002-2006. Gaspard decided to become a professional wrestler and he qualified for the finals of the reality television program Tough Enough 2 in 2002, but was disqualified and replaced after failing the physical. After Tough Enough, Gaspard was recruited by WWE talent scout Tom Pritchard and allowed to attempt a career as a professional wrestler. He first trained with Dwayne Bruce from the WCW power plant for 6 months. Afterwards, he was signed to a developmental contract by World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE, and he was assigned to Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW. Gaspard made his OVW debut in 2003 under the ring name, The Beast, eventually joining Bolin Services stable, which led by Kenny Bolin. Originally, he acted as Bolin's personal enforcer, until he was placed into a tag team with Carlos Colon, Jr. in February 2004. After Colon left OVW in October 2004, Gaspard left Bolin Services and formed several short-lived tag teams with Osama, Mike Mondo, Ken Doane, and Ryan Wilson, before he began wrestling under his real name as a singles wrestler. Crime Time, 2006-2007. In early 2006, during his feud in OVW with CM Punk, Gaspard was joined by the Neighborhood and formed a new tag team known as the Gang Stars. The Gangstars won the OVW Southern Tag Team Championship on May 27, but they lost the titles to CM Punk and Seth Skyfire on July 28. On the September 4, 2006 episode of Raw, a series of vignettes began airing, hyping the debut of Crime Time, Gaspard and the Neighborhoodie, with Neighborhoodie's ring name changing to JTG. On the October 16 episode of Raw, Crime Time made their in-ring debut by defeating then-World Tag Team Champions The Spirit Squad, Mikey and Johnny, in a non-title match. The duo made their pay-per-view debut at Cyber Sunday, where Crime Time defeated Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch, Charlie Haas and Viscera and the Highlanders, Robbie McAllister and Rory McAllister, in a Texas Tornado match, as voted by the fans. A few months later at the New Year's Revolution pay-per-view, Crime Time won a tag team turmoil match against the Highlanders, the world's greatest tag team, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch, and Jim Duggan and Super Crazy, earning them a shot at the World Tag Team Championships. On April 1, 2007, at WrestleMania 23, Crime Time made a cameo appearance and started a dance party with Eugene and some WWE legends in the backstage area. On the June 29 episode of SmackDown, Deuce and Domino, with Cherry, defeated Crime Time in an inter-brand tag match. While Deuce, Domino and Cherry celebrated their victory, Crime Time appeared on the Titantron and Kayfabe stole their car, taking it to Briscoe Brothers Auto Shop to sell it for parts, chanting, "Money, money, yeah, yeah." In July, Crime Time returned to OVW and regained the OVW Southern Tag Team Championship on July 21 from the James Boys, Casey James and Cassidy James, becoming two-time tag team champions, but they lost the titles back to them the following day. On the August 13 episode of Raw, Crime Time returned to their hometown of New York City, losing to then-World Tag Team Champions Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch in a non-title match by disqualification, when Gaspard used a chair on Murdoch. On the August 27 episode of Raw, Crime Time stole Murdoch's hat and gave it away to a fan, starting a feud between them. However, on September 2, 2007, both Gaspard and JTG was released from their WWE contract. Independent Circuit, 2007-2008. After being released from WWE, Gaspard lost to Psychosis at a Pro Wrestling Alliance (PWA) event on September 22 in Houston, Texas. Gaspard, along with JTG, wrestled at the Jersey All Pro Wrestling's JAPW 10th anniversary show on October 27, 2007, defeating the Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. They left the promotion undefeated after defeating Style and Finesse, Mike Donovan and Rob Vegas in January 2008 reclaiming Hudson event. Return to WWE, 2008-2010. On the March 31, 2008 episode of Raw, Gaspard and JTG returned to WWE as Crime Time, defeating Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch. Crime Time began working with John Cena on the June 30 episode of Raw, when they helped him interfere during John Bradshaw Layfield's JBL match. The following week, they again appeared together in a backstage segment, when they vandalized JBL's limo. After a house show match, Cena confirmed that they had created a faction and announced that it was called Crime Time Nation, CTC. Crime Time also started a feud with the World Tag Team Champions Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase, stealing their championship belts for a time, then losing a title match to them at the Unforgiven pay-per-view event. On April 15, 2009, Crime Time were drafted to the SmackDown brand as part of the draft. They made their debut on brand on the May 1 episode of SmackDown, hosting a dance contest between Eve Torres and Layla. The team made their in-ring debut on the May 22 episode of SmackDown, where they teaming up with John Morrison to defeat the world's greatest tag team and Ricky Ortiz. On the July 31st episode of SmackDown, Crime Time defeated the Hart Dynasty, David Hart Smith and Tyson Kidd to become the #1 contenders for the unified WWE Tag Team Championship. At SummerSlam, they failed to capture the titles against Jerry Show, Chris Jericho and Big Show. On March 28, 2010, at WrestleMania XXVI, Gaspard competed in a battle royal, with Gaspard and JTG eliminated Luke Gallows, before Gaspard eliminated JTG, and Shad was later eliminated by William Regal. On the April 2nd episode of SmackDown, after Crime Time lost a match, Gaspard attacked JTG, thus turning heel and disbanding Crime Time in the process. The next week on SmackDown, Gaspard taunted JTG by showing footage of the attack, and JTG attempted to attack him, but was laid out by Gaspard. The following week, after JTG's match against Kylan Croft, Gaspard attacked JTG, but was eventually fought off. On the April 22nd episode of WWE Superstars, Gaspard, now sporting the new attire and the new theme song, defeated Goldust. Their feud led to a strap match at Extreme Rules, which JTG won. The two faced off again on the May 6th episode of Superstars, where Gaspard was victorious, thus ending their feud. Gaspard made his final television appearance on the May 14th episode of SmackDown, where he defeated Jesse Guevara. On November 19, 2010, he was released from his WWE contract. Japan, 2011. On February 5, 2011, Gaspard went to Japan and worked for Antonio Inoki's Inoki Genome Federation, IGF, where he teamed with Bobby Lashley in a loss to Atsushi Sawada and Eric Hammer. Returned to the independent circuit, 2011-2020. After being released a second time by WWE, Gaspard returned to the independent circuit, and on January 22, 2011, he defeated Charlie Haas at FWE Retribution in New York City. On March 31, 2012, he lost to Big Daddy V at WrestleDrama in Georgetown, Ghana. It was announced on June 19, 2014 that Gaspard and JTG were looking for booking interests labeled now as the slightly altered Crime Time, with they wrestled the first match on their Crime Time World Tour on August 23, 2014, for the Warriors of Wrestling promotion in Staten Island. At the JAPW 18th anniversary show on November 15, 2014, Crime Time defeated Damian Darling and Danny Tominto in a tag team match. Gaspard then continued to wrestle alongside JTG until his death in 2020. Personal life: Gaspard married Celiana, a fitness model and athlete, in 2009. They had a son named Arie in April 2010. On December 11, 2016, Gaspard prevented the armed robbery of a gas station in Coral Springs, Florida, when he was approached by an intoxicated man who was intent on robbing the station. Gaspard shoved the man, took away his gun, and restrained him until police arrived. Death: on May 17, 2020, Gaspard and his son were among a group of swimmers caught in a strong rip current in Venice Beach, California. Gaspard instructed the lifeguards to save his son first, then disappeared underwater. Alongside the U.S. Coast Guard, among the search team were fellow professional wrestlers JTG, John Morrison, and Chris Masters. On May 19, after searching 70 square nautical miles, 240 km, the U.S. Coast Guard suspended the search. On May 20, Gaspard's body was found washed ashore in Venice Beach and was identified by the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office. Other media: Gaspard has appeared in the video games as a playable character in WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2009, WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2010, WWE SmackDown vs. Raw, 2011.in January 2012. He was advertised as appearing on BET television series The Game, as well as TV Land original situation comedy The X's in October 2012. He was also working on other upcoming films and often performed stunts. Besides wrestling and acting, Gaspard also did modeling and worked on a comic book. In 2013, Gaspard performed in the stage adaptation of Pugilist as Jack Johnson, the first African-American world heavyweight boxing champion, 1908-1915, depicting the fighter's rise to the world heavyweight championship, and his tragic fall. In 2018, Gaspard provided the motion capture for protagonist Kratos of the video game God of War. See also List of solved missing persons cases. Filmography. Championships and accomplishments. NWA Wildside. NWA Wildside Tag Team Championship, 1 time, with JTG fighting Evolution Wrestling. FEW Tag Team Championship, 1 time, with JTG Ohio Valley Wrestling. OVW Southern Tag Team Championship, 2 times, with the Neighborhood. JTG Pro Wrestling Illustrated ranked number 85 of the top 500 singles wrestlers in the PWI 500 in 2010. Superstars of Wrestling Federation SWF Tag Team Championship, 1 time, with JTG Victory. Independent Pro Wrestling VIP Tag Team Championship, 1 time, with JTG World Wrestling Alliance. WWA Tag Team Championship, 1 time, with JTG. References. External links. Shad Gaspard on IMDb. Shad Gaspard's profile at cagematch.net, WrestlingData.com, Internet Wrestling Database.